Going back though, and this grandfather came from Northern Ireland.
Oh yes, I think it was Newton Stewart. Newton Stewart in Northern Ireland. My Aunt Jen and Uncle Will lived on, but I remember when they sold the farm, I think they got about $10,000 for it, 100 acres. Because my grandfather had died prior to that. My mother's people were all buried up at Arundel.
What was her maiden name?
Cornwall. My grandfather, Cornwall, he married somebody by the name of Adamson, but then he remarried my grandmother, and he had about, I must have had at least 6 or 7 children, and he was an old man when he got married. He must have been pretty good. My Uncle George, my Uncle Will, my Uncle Leonard, and my mother, whose name was Emily, and a sister whose name was Isaac. But he had a couple of other kids too, I think.
But he had about 6 farms.
But he was an old man when he died. When he died, he left them all a farm, but I think my mother got gypped out of that somewhere or other. They sort of took the girls, I guess. And eventually she got some sort of a settlement, but wasn't too happy with it. Well, I was born at 110 Amelia Street, which is the street where a cop was shot the other day. Oh, well, we almost, when I was a kid, we had there's a .22 Savage upstairs, single shot. We used to shoot bottles off the end of the fence at the farm. Well, we used to shoot those all the time. My father became he was the office manager of that particular company. The Kemp Manufacturing Company, it was run by Sir Edward Kemp, as he wasn't a sir in those days. He was a member of Parliament at some time or other. Eventually, about 1917, he was in rather poor health, and he retired. But he still did the financial work for Sir Edward Kemp. When I was about 6, we moved to 39 Langley Avenue, and we lived there until about 1919, I guess. Then moved up to 37 Plater Boulevard, and we lived there for, I guess about 7 or 8 years anyway. Then they sold that house, and we moved up into a house on Glenrose Avenue. It's up in Moore Park. When I was going through medicine, I lived there. Got rid of that place, and they moved into a house at 486 Oriole Parkway, just below Eckington. They were very happy living there. I interned, first of all, at the General and at Sick Kids. After I interned at Sick Kids, I took a locum tenens up in Huntsville for 6 weeks, and I did quite a bit of work up there for about 6 weeks.
You paid $1 a mile for every cop, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I went all over the place. Then when I started in practice, they rented this place at the corner of Annette and Windermere. That's where I started my practice.
I remember something too about the war. I remember something about you closing the windows at nighttime, and I can barely remember it.
But what we had to have blackouts. We had to have blackouts, and you had to put that black paper over the windows, and you couldn't have any lights on. If you did, why the wardens came along and would check on you.
They burned fires in the streets, remember? We sat in the hall.
Yeah.
Tell them.
Well, I bought 2 or 3 of those Coleman lanterns too, because we're supposed to turn all our lights out. During the last war, I was a medical examiner for the recruiting. I was working down at the exhibition grounds as a medical examiner on the medical boards, but I was also the medical officer for the 2nd Divisional Signals. So I went down there twice a week examining recruits for them, but we had to go over to Niagara Falls, the camp there at Niagara-on-the-Lake, and I went there a couple of years, and then I had to qualify as a captain, so I took a 2 weeks course over there and qualified. I could never qualify to get in the active army because I had this darn psoriasis, you see.
On Windermere and Annette.
Right.
And then they moved to Hyde Park Avenue, I think early 1940, about that time. And the house was owned by Spears, pretty sure it was Spears, of the funeral parlor people. So what you'd do at the house, you'd walk in the front door, the patients would walk in the front door, you had two signs, I got one sign at home still. Walk in the house, there's a little vestibule, and then there was the front hall, this waiting room. And then off to the right was sort of like a den or whatever originally, but he made that his office. So that was his office, and that's where he worked. Just one room, no secretary. 90 degrees to your right were the stairs going upstairs. And then further ahead you get into the kitchen. So that's how his office was set up. Always had his office at his house, which is a real pain, because as kids, we had to keep quiet. His biggest fear would have somebody die in the house, but vaguely remember somebody fainted in his office. So we called my mother and took this person into the living room, which was to the left, and closed the doors, and they revived themselves or whatever. So
Do you get that measles vaccine from the province now, Ellen?
Listen, I have a little thing to talk to him about. He had a whole bunch of kids in school, well, a bunch of children in this German measles vaccine, and he has a child with German measles.
I haven't exactly seen this child, but according to the mother, I'm sure that it's German measles the child has, and she's had the German measles vaccine.
The thing I remember about Lois was sitting at the table, and Happy would have his muzzle on her leg, and Happy would be drooling. Every once in a while she would feed him a bit. There was one day when our cat, Marcella and I were down there, and I think Alec was outside his window. Now whether he was setting up one of his famous guns to get the pigeons, or exactly what he was doing, I don't know. But I was in his bedroom looking out, and we had a young cat at the time. I mean, a kitten at sort of 6 months. Anyway, and all of a sudden, the kitten was out on the ledge. Well, the kitten took off, sort of. And Happy was down on the ground at the foot of the ladder. Well, the kitten fell off the ledge and hit the ground, of course, and Happy went, "Boom!" And Alec looked down at him and said, "Happy!" Happy went, and the kitten went, "Boom!" to the back door. But they had this big, you've never seen their house on Hyde Park, but there's a humongous tree in the backyard. Shine at night, you could shine a flashlight up there, and all you saw were these little red eyes. Generations of raccoons up there. I mean, that was their home. They lived there for years and years and years.
You didn't tell him how you met me.
Lois was a nurse at Toronto General, and he was an intern, and that's how they met. They were really strict in those days with curfews and such, but he'd sneak her out in the evening. She'd stay out past curfew, and apparently they found a way to get her back in. He would boost her up to one of the windows on the ground floor of the nursing residence, and she'd crawl through and then get into the residence that way.
Jukebox Saturday night, they put nothing past.
Passions weren't the marrying kind, you know.
Making one cold blasters till it's time to scratch.
He was very quiet, very reserved. He probably had a touch of Asperger's syndrome, which is very, very bright. Not antisocial, but asocial. Trouble communicating to a certain degree. The group of doctors, they would have what's called a journal club, where about 10 of them would come over and discuss a journal article. They'd go to different houses. When they had one at our house, he was just about petrified that these people were coming. So Mother would make up food and such, and they'd read the journal, and they'd be really quiet. He had some friends that he went hunting and fishing with, but it was really limited. Well, Mother's group was all Bridge Club and other people and IODE and all that, so she did all of that. She basically ran the house. She was a stay-at-home mother, of course, in those days. I remember her going out and paying all the bills. Fuel oil for the house was 15 cents a gallon. So she ran everything, and she picked up. So he just did his work and such. Very quiet, very caring.
That's Dr. Blake. He was a psychiatrist. He was a weird boy, but all psychiatrists are crazy, your grandfather told me. But they were the best of friends. And a thing called Perisolstice, which was a medical, some kind of club. They go, I think, every month, once a month or something. So often they'd come out there to begin with. I think he'd had polio or something, but he could walk, but he had a strange walk. They go to the beach, he and his wife, Kay Blake, who's well known in the family. She was the opposite to him. She was a ball of fun, and he'd tie a string on her when she went in the water. Not a heavy rope, but twine? Yes, and once they had us out to their cottage out in somewhere, I forget where, and he wanted me to explain to him how to roast a beef on the barbecue, and he took notes.
Like a psychiatrist would, right? Oh, so
he was really odd, but poor guy, he died of cancer.
So any other Ashenhursts in Toronto are not related to him at all?
Not necessarily.
They would be Ashenhursts from Ireland.
There's another Ashenhurst, a nursing assistant at St. Joe's there. Well, she and her husband, of course, his was the Ashenhurst. He used to work for Ensign Motors as a mechanic.
Mm-hmm. So actually, of all the Ashenhursts of your grandfather came over.
Mm-hmm.
Jim and I are the only ones left then.
Well, no, there's another group of Ashenhursts lived around Goodwood, around Uxbridge.
Mm-hmm.
And one of their sons is Reedy Ashenhurst. He lives down in Mayfair.
He'll probably tell you a lot more.
See? He probably knows more about them than anyone. And I think his brother lives in Burlington too. But his father ran a farm near Goodwood, near Uxbridge. But there are other Ashenhursts lived at Erin. I remember driving up there in the buggy when I was a kid out at the farm. And there was Big Jim, and Johnny, and Alec, and Margaret. And the only one that got married to those, the Ashenhursts weren't the marrying kind, you know. The only one that got married was Margaret, and she married somebody and lived in Whitby afterwards. But the other three all lived on the farm. It was a poor farm. Apparently the main source of income was a quarry they had. And I'm sure they're all buried around Erin somewhere.
Your great-grandfather, your grandfather, and your father are the only ones
Yeah.
in our family, and you and Jim.
Yeah. In our particular end of the stick, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, where your great-grandfather, who he came from,
You go too far back, you might
you might find a skeleton.
find a few skeletons.
There's the best and the worst of us, and the worst and the best of us. So here's to all of us.